Okay, so I'm ready to put in some windows. Now, uh, you may choose to do things in different orders than I have, and it might be more appropriate to put the windows in earlier than I have. Uh, I'm comfortable putting them in now because I know what is going to work and what isn't going to work ahead of time. Uh, your particular model might not work and as you have it laid out. So you might want to change it before you do some of the other things that I've done, like put in the floor joists or the subfloor or other things. So there's no particular order that's correct. There might be some orders, uh, a process of putting in different elements at different stages of this process. But the important thing is to get it correct or working or satisfactory to you as the architect. And if you're working for clients, then satisfactory to them as their new house. And it's not uncommon for me to think that I have a great solution and then present it to my clients and have them think less of it than I do. Uh, on the opposite extreme, it's also possible for me to think that I have a great solution, and the clients might look at that and say, "Wow, we never thought about that, but we really like it. Let's incorporate it." If we're dealing with clients, but in this particular case, I'm the client, and I'm not judging your work from an aesthetic point of view. And really, I'm not judging it from a functional point of view either. I just want to see that you understand how to integrate the various components into your model using Revit. As I will say in your and have said in your classes, you can present the ugliest building that I've ever seen, and it will not uh, hurt you in any way, shape, or form from your grade. Uh, Also, you may do a very beautiful presentation or design, and it really isn't going to help you. Uh, it's the integration of the components that is really important. So let's take a look at what we have here. I have an office. I know that office is going to need some windows, and I have. Maybe I should change this so we can see it better. Let's try consistent colors. That doesn't really help me. I'll just go to hidden line. So there's my house, and I like to uh, have a three-dimensional view of that house so that I can see the consequences or the result in three dimension of the things that I'm doing. So let's start. We can start anywhere. We'll start right here, and I've set the window height for the front of the house. If we take a look at the section, I've dimensioned it. I've got the window. The top of the window is at 9 foot 6 3/4, which is probably going to be a problem because I need some sort of a header up here. So I should really start out by making this a smaller window height. So let's see what we have. I think if I say that if I put my reference plane in here and set it for 8 foot 10, usually my windows go in at an increment of 10 inches. So if I have an 8 foot ceiling, it would be 6 foot 10. And then as the ceiling rises, the windows would generally rise uh, by 10-inch increments as well. So that's where I really want my window to be. I can't drop it down because I do want the backsplash here. So let's see if I dimension the height of the window. I want it to be, say, let's see if this is, 6 feet. If I make that window 6 feet, it should be pretty good um, in height. Let's double check that again just to make sure. Now that's even better. 5 foot 3 1/4 is really what I want. I must have measured up to the top of the existing window. Different window manufacturers will have different window heights, but I'm going to make this particular window 5 foot 3 1/4. Let's see what happens. If I edit this type and duplicate it. The width is fine, but the height is going to be 5'3¼ 5'3¼ inches. Okay. And I get rid of the 2. Revit puts that in automatically when it duplicates. All right. So now my height is going to be 5'3¼ Just want to double check that, right? Yep, 5'3¼ So I'm looking for my height. Here it is. And we'll change that to 5'3.25. And we'll say okay. So that looks good. That looks really good. Oh, maybe I need to drop that down a little bit because it's really not going to the. So how much do I need to drop it down? Let's measure. Ooh, that's a weird number. Okay, Control C. Then that's going to be a weird number. If I use this weird number, it's going to be a custom window and it's going to cost my clients, or if this were a real project, it would cost my clients extra to buy a custom window. But in this case, we're going to do it anyway. So 5'3¼ Let's see if I offset by that amount, Control V, and maybe let's just, sometimes it's the reference plane won't let me do an offset. So we'll put this dimension in. You'll see what I'm trying to do in a second. And I'll click on this guy, and then I'm going to Control V and put that in there. So now I can measure what my total distance is going to be. From here to this guy goes all the way down to here. Okay, so that 5'3" and 30 seconds is really what the height of my window wants to be. That's a very odd number, but we'll use it. So I'll measure from here straight up to here. I'm just measuring it so I can copy the number that it is, okay, which is right there. Control C for copy. And then I'm going to click on this window and edit the type, duplicate it, and it's going to be this number now, Control V, 5'3", and that's a really weird number. That would be an expensive window to make because it's custom, not because of those weird numbers. All right, so I'll Control V, paste that into here, and now my window should be exactly what I want it to be. Let's align this guy right here. So the frame of the window is there, and the top of the window is not what I wanted it to be. All right, I played around with this with the recording pause. I want the height to be 8'10", and sure enough, my window height is 8'10". And window size, let's measure it from right here to right there, is 5'3" and 30 seconds. So that's a custom window. That would, I probably wouldn't do that in real life. What I would do is I'd leave the height of the window at the proper elevation, and I would raise this up a little bit more so that it's a standard size, and then change the height of my backsplash to accommodate that. But anyway, this is my window height. So I'll first floor. So I've actually named that reference plane, and let's see if I can drag it over here because I want it to go through. I will be able to see this throughout the project. That's one of the nice things about reference planes. is that they appear in more than one view or window, which is really nice because I'll have that as a reference all the way across. Let's keep going with that. Got a long way to go. Let's see if I can just isolate that element and then just maybe a little easier to grab it like that. Okay. And then reset everything rather than, gradually taking it across. Anyway, okay. I've got my first window set up to the correct parameters, and I'm going to need something to carry this end of the floor joist on the second floor. And that's going to be a header. And so let's take a look at how much distance I have in here for a header. Okay, so I've got ample distance there to put some kind of structure in there later. All right, so back to the first floor. And if we go to the front elevation now, which is the south, I haven't renamed them yet, you can see that if I click on this reference plane, let's see what it's called, first floor window height. So I've got that as an example. So there's a lot of ways to do this. Let's go to the first floor. Let's say create similar to begin with, and I'll just put that right here, okay? I do want it to be centered in the room. I think it won't make any difference to what I do out here. So let's get that window centered right away. From the inside face of the gypsum board to the center of the window to, whoops, okay, so I can do that right. I'll click on it again, edit the witness line and keep it going across to here. And 6 foot, okay, so they're not equal, so I'll say equal. And now I have equal, I've got that window centered in the room, and I'll unconstrain it. Now, if I take a look at that from the south elevation, I had to have a short window here because of the countertop, but I don't have to have a short window here. Let's align this guy because it didn't go in automatically, and I know that if I use this line right here, it'll be the same. Well, I think I didn't do it right. From here to here. Okay, now that's all lined up. So you can see that I can make that window a lot deeper, and probably would want to. So let's take a look. We'll click on this guy and we'll see what's available here. What else do we have available? So I've got 8'5". I've got 8 foot, 6 feet. Yeah, that'd probably be better. Okay, now I need to reline it. So I have a 6 foot high window. And I think I want to align with this guy right here. Let's take a look. Yeah, okay. So that looks good. 6 foot high window. Let's take a look at that in section and see how that relates to the room. So we'll go to the section. We'll take a look at it. And I'm just curious about how much of a wall height I still have here. Is that going to be too much of a wall height, or maybe not enough? 2'8". And I think that's actually quite fine for this project. So we'll say okay to that. So now I have my second window placed in there. And I'm going to come over now. It's time to take a look at the powder room. And it should have a window. That would be really nice. But I don't want a wide window. I just want one window. Architecture, window. And let's see what we have here. I've got a 1'4" by 6 feet. Let's try that and see what happens. We'll put it right here. It's pretty narrow. And it should be recessed by 4 inches. So let's go back. The brick mold isn't going to be outside of the edit the type. The brick mold is the inset's going to be 4 inches. So the brick mold will be at the wall, the sheathing, not at the brick itself. Minor detail, but see, the brick mold really sits here. And then Colby hasn't cut the window correctly because the brick would stop at the outside face of the brick mold, but for purposes of this demonstration, that's okay. And that window could be wider. So let's see what else do we have here. I want a 6-foot high window, but I want it to be wider. And don't have any wider than that. So let's make it 30 inches wide. So we'll click on it. We'll edit the type, duplicate it, and we're going to make it 30 inches wide. That's 2.5 feet. And we'll get rid of the 2 that Revit added. And then we'll come over here to the width and we'll make it 30 inches. Revit automatically changes it to feet and inches, so that makes it easier. Or less brain power needs to be used. Okay, I like that better. Now the question is, where should that actually be located? And I'm thinking that if we center it on this guy and say equal, so I'm centered between the gypsum board and the edge of the countertop, and I think that would be fine. So we'll delete that. So now I have 2 windows in. Let's go up to save. And I'm thinking maybe I would like the same situation. Question is, why is this happening? I really shouldn't get distracted, but I am. And let's see if that'll clean it up. No, we'll have to come back and clean that up later because the gypsum board wouldn't come all the way through like that. All right, so I like this guy. So let's try create similar. I think it's a great tool for Revit, and do the same thing. I've got my 4-inch offset. I like that. And again, I've got my, so we can't see the countertop here, but let's say I'm going to do my dimension from here. That is the countertop. And then I'll come back and find the midpoint and say equal. They are equal now. I like that. We'll click enter and we'll click delete and hit enter. And now this is starting to look pretty good. This is going to be an entrance, so I'll work on that later. And let's put one more window in the garage. And let's use the bigger guy. So the one that's a little bit deeper. And we'll say create similar. I'll put it right there. And then we'll grab, I can go from brick to brick, outside face of brick to outside face of brick for my equal. Now, notice that it says equal, equal. If I actually wanted to see what those dimensions were, I could just click on the word equal and it would show me back to equal, equal, or the actual dimensions. So I'll hit escape, escape, and delete that. Back to the south elevation, which is really the front. And I want to make sure that all of my windows line up. So I will use this align tool. This is my line that I put in there for right this. Let's actually look at that. Oh, all right. So I want to align that as well. So let's do that. And interesting here. All right. So now I'm confused. So I'll go back here and see which one is correct because it doesn't look right to me. I hit the modify to get out of any kind of command. We'll go back to this section. And somehow this window got raised up a little bit and I don't know how that happened. So I'm going to pull it back down to here. Okay, that's 8'10" from the top of the plywood subfloor to the top of the window right here is 8'10". So the correct window location as far as the height goes is in the laundry room. So I'll go to my south elevation and take a look at my laundry room, which is right here. And it appears that I'm aligning my reference plane to the top of the window frame now, so that's okay. I'll go back and fix that. Align. I'm going to come over and say multiple, so I'm going to pick this guy and then start dropping the windows down. Because I selected multiple, I can go around and clean everything up here. This guy needs to go up just a little bit, and this guy needs to come down. So now they're all in the correct location. And so we'll wrap this tutorial up. But you can see the front elevation or the south elevation. And these are the windows that are placed in. And that's kind of what it looks like. One of the advantages of doing the renderings is I can see that I've put this window in backwards. The inside of the window is on the outside of the wall. So if we take a look at that, there it is. There's the brick mold. So I'm going to highlight that and just hit the space bar and see now it flips around. So it's correct. So that's a good place to end this tutorial about putting in windows. I'll go around the rest of the house, and when you see the final product of what I have here, you can watch another tutorial if you see something that's similar to what you want to do in your project that I didn't show on the front elevation. But I'll have some these are two-story spaces, so I'll have some two-story windows in here, and so I'll walk all the way around and I'll do a tutorial putting in windows for each elevation. But you don't necessarily have to watch each tutorial. If you've seen this one and you understand how the windows go in and how they're supposed to line up on the outside, that would be enough watching of the tutorials. But if you want to see more, like for example, how am I going to put all of these windows in? Well, let's go back real quick here. I think it's this. Oh, no, it isn't. Yes, it is. There's what I did for a client in their house, and it looked really nice. And so I'm going to try to duplicate something like that over here, which will be a lot of work, and it will also be a very expensive detail, but I think it looks really nice. And so you might want to watch the tutorial on how to do something like that. But anyway, good place to stop.